All of this happened because of one decision, one direction, one will. Everything collapsed at once, leaving anger, fear, and confusion everywhere. What once appeared stable now feels fragile, as if the ground beneath society shifted overnight. The sense of inevitability frightens people more than the events themselves. It begins with a raw confession, spoken without filters or caution. A voice shakes, struggling to control rage and disbelief. This is not staged anger. This is a soul crying out, overwhelmed by loss and humiliation. It carries the weight of disappointment shared by millions. It is the sound of a country cracking from within. Russia is once again filling its streets with unrest. Red Square is no longer ceremonial. It becomes a symbol of fear, frustration, and betrayal. Those who were once loyal now stand openly defiant together. Nationalists, musicians, painters, and street performers swell the crowds. Even those who praised the state yesterday are now shouting against it. The familiar order dissolves in plain sight. Authorities respond with familiar reflexes. Calls are echoing demands for shutdowns of YouTube, Instagram, and WhatsApp. The justification sounds hollow to many. Russia is not North Korea, people shout angrily. Citizens cannot understand why modern life must be cut apart. Each blackout feels personal, invasive, and deliberate. The anger grows louder with every interruption. Across cities, ordinary life begins to collapse. Shops close without explanation. Streets feel hollow and unusually quiet. Walking along Nevsky Prospect, familiar storefronts are dark. Cafes, clothing stores, and rental shops lock their doors early. These closures feel symbolic rather than temporary. Commerce pauses as fear replaces routine and uncertainty replaces planning. People speak directly to the leadership, not with reverence, but disbelief. They accuse those in power of losing touch with reality. Across regions, communications fail abruptly. Internet access disappears without warning. Crimea, Saint Petersburg, and Moscow suburbs fall silent. No connection, no updates, no reassurance remains. Isolation spreads faster than information. The word spreading everywhere is war. It explains everything and nothing at once. Raids intensify across cities and towns. Security services storm neighborhoods methodically. Young people are pulled into police vans. Some are detained simply for standing alone. Near the Kremlin walls, language grows darker. The imagery of repression returns openly, without disguise. The country slides into another spiral of fear and control. Breaking news becomes constant and exhausting. Protests multiply despite growing risks. People appeal to federal authorities, claiming local governments are helpless. The same message repeats across regions. Ordinary citizens feel abandoned, betrayed, and deliberately ignored by those in power. Voices describe a cruel paradox unfolding daily. The state once promised protection and stability. Now it takes away homes, savings, and dignity. People call it a vicious circle. What was given with one hand was taken back with the other. The sense of injustice deepens with each testimony shared publicly. Some groups take extreme measures to be heard. Hunger strikes are declared publicly. Dates are announced openly. Protest centers shift nightly to avoid suppression. New groups gather each evening. Nationalists stand beside liberals and artists. They chant against war and dictatorship. Their unity comes not from ideology, but from shared rejection of repression. Mass protests spread across Moscow, Saint Petersburg, and distant regions. In Rostov, families of war participants begin hunger strikes. They say promised housing never arrived. Funds disappeared without explanation. In Kursk, refugee payments of 65,000 rubles were suddenly cancelled. Despair turns into confrontation with the authorities. People march to administrative buildings demanding answers. Many lost homes and property near the border regions. Officials cancel payments without alternatives or timelines. Entire communities feel erased from consideration. For many families, survival now depends on help from relatives or strangers. Pride gives way to necessity. Moscow feels increasingly suffocated by security operations. Police vans line public squares day and night. The National Guard conducts constant sweeps. Artists, musicians, and street singers are detained. Singing becomes extremism. Writing becomes provocation. Silence becomes the only safe behavior in public spaces. Internet disruptions worsen daily across regions. WhatsApp slows dramatically, becoming nearly unusable. Rumors of full blockage spread fast. Citizens compare their country to a giant detention zone. The language grows harsher in private conversations. People shout that Russia is being turned into a concentration camp. Once again, cries come from the soul. People scream against isolation and censorship. They demand a functional internet and a normal life. They remind authorities that Russia is not meant to live in digital darkness. War, hunger strikes, and theft dominate conversations everywhere, replacing ordinary concerns. Citizens accuse investigative bodies of failing. Billions disappeared, yet no accountability followed. People describe hopelessness as their daily reality. Demonstrations now focus on housings, money, internet access, and basic dignity. The war has entered living rooms, kitchens, and bedrooms. Some voices attempt calm addresses to audiences. They urge people to stand up psychologically and resist despair. But fear dominates behavior. Security forces operate as if it were the 1930s again. Metro stations become detention zones. Solo protesters are arrested without explanation or documentation. In Moscow, suburbs like Lyubertsy, nationalist marches emerge openly. Masked men chant slogans about greatness and identity. Police ignore them completely. Observers recognize familiar faces from past decades. These groups thrive when the state weakens. Force becomes their only language and belief system. Authorities once called these men patriots. Now they march independently without oversight. This silence from the police feels intentional to many. The decay of control allows radical forces to resurface publicly. Power vacuums never remain empty for long in unstable systems. Meanwhile, migrant tensions flare again in several regions. Protests overlap with riots and confrontations. While singers are jailed, others receive state support to guard infrastructure. Oil refineries face new threats. Authorities cite risks from Ukrainian long-range unmanned aerial vehicles. Reservists are recruited quietly through regional announcements. Payments range from 30,000 to 50,000 rubles. The job involves guarding potential targets. Many see it as desperation, not service. The system resembles a grinder consuming anyone left behind without options. Officials explain reserve rules carefully on camera. Contracts last 60 days. Mandatory training lasts 14 days. Participants remain within regional borders. They are promised safety from deployment. Few fully believe these assurances, given recent experiences. Amid this chaos, statements about the death penalty resurface publicly. They spread as memes but feel disturbingly serious. In places like Zelenograd, even urban design reflects fear. New benches resemble execution walls. Citizens joke nervously, sensing darker symbolism beneath design choices. People interpret these structures as reflections of the future. A future without music or free expression. Russia now stands between song and police van, between open squares and concrete walls. Authorities claim control, but fear exists everywhere on both sides. Land disputes ignite further anger across regions. Hundreds gather publicly despite risks. People who purchased property legally now face confiscation. Criminal cases stall endlessly. Investigators claim missing funds cannot be found. Victims describe total despair and exhaustion. Parents speak of stolen childhoods with trembling voices. Children cry at night from displacement trauma. Families deny responsibility for abandoning homes. They insist the state abandoned them first. The emotional toll becomes unbearable, leaving scars beyond repair. Once again, Nevsky Prospect appears deserted. Shops remain closed throughout the day. Cities across Russia mirror this pattern. Police presence replaces customers. Surveillance replaces commerce. The atmosphere grows heavy with suspicion and quiet anxiety. Observers connect these events clearly. Nationalist marches, migrant unrest, police repression, and closed businesses point to weakening authority. Power fractures show themselves through chaos rather than order. Stability appears increasingly performative. Amid unrelated broadcasts, strange ideological statements surface. Discussions about family roles and faith reveal deeper societal confusion. Extremes replace balance. Rational discourse fades beneath ideological noise and provocation. Meanwhile, state television discussions turn openly apocalyptic. Military commentators describe weapons capable of destroying civilizations. They speak casually about annihilation and megaton yields. These threats sound unreal yet deeply disturbing to viewers. Scenarios describe strikes wiping out coastal populations. Cities are named casually. Human life becomes abstract. Megaton numbers replace empathy. This language filters into public consciousness slowly, normalizing catastrophe. Some insist isolation is survivable and even beneficial. They speak of switching weapons and escalating force. Others argue that restraint remains impossible. The conversation spirals between denial and aggression, leaving no space for compromise. Warnings target cities repeatedly. Civilians are told to flee or accept destruction. Historical comparisons invoke biblical punishment. These narratives normalize catastrophe instead of preventing it, eroding empathy further. Amid this darkness, music appears briefly. Songs speak of hope breaking through snow. Voices sing softly against despair. It feels fragile yet defiant. Art survives even under pressure, reminding people of what still exists. The final discussions return to uncertainty. Will war expand further? Will peace ever return? Some insist escalation is impossible, others fear decades of conflict ahead, with no clear end. Even supporters admit doubt quietly. Pride mixes with concern. Questions linger without answers. The future feels undefined, unstable, and frightening to many watching closely. Gratitude is exchanged formally at the end of broadcasts. New Year's wishes sound hollow and rehearsed. Smiles hide exhaustion and fear. The conversation closes without resolution, leaving only silence and unanswered fears. As these events continue unfolding across streets, screens, and silent homes, understanding becomes essential. Following this channel means staying informed beyond headlines and slogans. It offers context where noise dominates and clarity where confusion spreads. If these stories matter, staying connected ensures they are not forgotten.